Developers across the ages have been trying very hard to figure out how to make their games less toxic, and for good reason. It's not easy. But one team managed to nail it in the head, and the same team has made what many would call, myself included, the perfect game. One that is almost completely free of it. Since I'm trying to develop my vision for the ultimate multiplayer experience, one that includes factions and the relations between them, a concept that is almost intrinsically toxic, it's not just recommended, but imperative that I take a page, or maybe even the whole book, from their design philosophy, or else the very idea that makes my server is what kills it. This is not going to be easy or straightforward, since humans tend to be the most wildly difficult beings to predict on the planet, yet by what many would call good design, or what I'll call gameplay manipulation, because it sounds more fun, and by listening to my community, it is still possible to turn something that would normally be a toxic heap of gamer rage and bad experiences into a thriving hustle and bustle of happy communities under one Minecraft roof, rich with beautiful, flourishing stories and memories to come. I'd like to welcome you all to the largest one yet, Chapter 4, Politics. That game I was talking about, and that legendary team, is none other than Ghost Ship Games' Deep Rock Galactic. This is a game that somehow managed to make such a uniquely positive game experience, and the perfect case study for me to learn from when making my server. Every person you might meet on that game is ridiculously kind, encouraging, and genuinely amazing to play with. This is all accomplished with clever gameplay manipulation that all but forces players to be nice to each other. The biggest thing Deep Rock does to make awesome player interactions is remove as many reasons for players to hate each other as possible. Missions reward all players equally. Everyone can pick the same class, buying a beer at the Abyss Bar gets everyone one, and although there are things like friendly fire, they are integral to the game's design. Ghost Ship calls these mechanics friction points. Although it's a reason to get mad at another player, because everyone shares the same goal of beating the mission, everyone tries very hard not to do these things. Not to mention, a downed dwarf is rarely the end of the world, as it only takes a few seconds to get them back on their feet. These friction points are decisions in the game to make reasons to coordinate and work with your teammates, having the opposite effect of what one would normally expect. You aren't only as strong as your weakest link in this game, and it's made very obvious. The class system is also very important. Each class is completely viable and playable on their own, but some classes simply do something so much better than others. Gunner guns, driller drills, engineer engineers, and scout dies to fall damage. And lights up the cave, I guess. You won't find a gunner shaping the terrain the way a driller can, the same way you won't find a scout shooting down bugs the same way a gunner can. They all have their unique uses and can increase the power of all other members on the team just by being there. Don't even get me started on what may better be described as a cult, the fanbase of DRG. Ghost Ship has put careful consideration into making the community feel like just that, a community. Via the use of 100 small things, we get something huge and amazing. The Rockin' Stone chants that everyone screams whenever literally anything happens, the mutual hate for elves, working hard under a soulless corporation, and all the wacky beers you can buy, and the jukebox you can dance to, all of it makes such a fantastic game to experience with other humans because of the incredible camaraderie Ghost Ship tried so hard to cultivate. I mean, who doesn't want to be a drunken dwarf in the middle of space, shooting down a bunch of bugs, trying their hardest to eat you and your friends' faces off? It's simply such an ethereal experience with love and attention poured into every crevice of the game. Literally. Many people attribute the incredible community of Deep Rock to the type of game it is, and even if that's the biggest factor to manipulating players into being good members of society for the first time of their lives, it doesn't mean we can't try to learn something from it. So, that being said, In order to figure out how to eliminate toxicity, we must understand exactly how the factions are going to work. To start, each one is going to be posted in the Discord, link below by the way. You have to make a faction application for me or my admins to revise and approve based on the motivations, goals, and priorities you outline in the application. In the future, I may also require that there must be a certain number of people in the faction in order for it to get approved, should my server grow further. After that, I'll give you your own role and permission to speak in the faction announcements and recruitment channels. Some members have actually already started organizing into factions, and I'll show quick little campaigns for each of them in the end, so stay tuned to see those. In the actual Minecraft server, you will also receive all your faction information in there. I'll talk about acquiring land in the economy video, but I'll explain how the land works in this one. One of the worst experiences ever is logging onto your Minecraft world just to see that your whole base is gone, some rando blew it up, and you have no evidence, and there's nothing you can do to make it right. It would be pointless to rebuild it there because it would immediately get blown up again. So you'd have to go somewhere else entirely, make a new base, and hope this one doesn't get obliterated for no reason. It's a clear reason to really hate a player, and it's a super frustrating time. Quite frankly, it's just an entirely unfun experience. Obviously, the land claiming functionality is going to fix this, but if not done correctly, could ruin the possibility of any sort of war happening. So, how do we stop griefing without stopping war? Well, first off, we're going to make claims protect entirely when no one in the faction is online. It sucks when you didn't have any chance whatsoever to defend your stuff. So with this, you actually will. I may change it to a certain percentage of the faction has to be online, but this mechanic could also be abused, so it's up to playtesting to see what that does. In order to stop players from just immediately logging off to avoid being raided the second they see other players, or logging off in any sort of sticky situation, I'm going to design a mod that keeps the soul of your player in the spot you logged off at, so combat logging no longer becomes an issue. This way, fair gameplay is enforced, and you don't have to worry about any bad apples ruining the experience. However, if I let protection down completely when faction members are online, it doesn't completely solve the issue, but effectively makes it happen at a different time. Maybe on a mining trip or something. Someone can do the exact same thing described earlier, and all this work I put into making this system was completely redundant. So there obviously has to still be some restrictions in order for the system to stay fair. Obviously, you should be pretty cautious about going on mining trips or away from your base in general if you have a reason to believe someone might be plotting your demise. However, clever decision making to attack when the enemy might be out likely shouldn't be invalidated completely. So like all good things, we have to find a balance. Above all else, however, I want to encourage people to build cool stuff, so their builds can't be threatened. Not much anyway. I also want the design and locale of each base to be meaningful in some way, and although it is helped by my previous video on exploration, top right corner by the way, the structure has to largely stay intact during raids, or else its design is worth nothing. Now, in order to figure out what we will and will not allow on faction territory without compromising the value of these structures, there are a couple things we have to consider when making war between factions possible. There has to be value to raiding a faction, so no cheap cop-outs to potentially remove a raider's ability to take something, besides the land of course. I'm looking at you, Ender Chests. So the first thing we're going to do is allow interactions and claim chunks, like doors, levers, and chests. This also makes designing cool doors and contraptions worth something, as although it'll block trespassers from getting in, it may potentially give them a cheaper way in for them to try, but risking giving you the upper hand. Unfortunately though, the need to break blocks remains, as the defender could simply put all their chests in a room with no door. I found the perfect compromise, however. I can install a mod that makes explosions rebuild themselves after a certain amount of time, and I can use create big cannons for more explosive power, as well as Valkyrian skies and clockwork to make these things useful. Now to attack a base, you can blow in an entry point that will stay open for 5 minutes or so until you get locked inside. This way, entry and raiding is still possible without completely compromising the integrity of each structure, making faction wars fair and respectable. No fancy cheats and ways around risk, just plain and simple warfare. Obviously, all the things that are allowed as I just described won't be when the faction is offline, so your breaching party better be on the lookout for when your enemy may be online. But then again, I don't want people raiding others left and right for no good reason. I want wars, not senseless thievery. So I need to encourage trade and camaraderie more than fighting people, especially if I want a good community. To start, almost every activity you will do will greatly benefit you by having a community. There are lots of complicated things and difficult challenges that are much harder to do by yourself. Not to mention, with the way I designed the faction propositions, with people making up their own goals for the server and openly displaying it, we get all kinds of different motivations, making for the most interesting interactions ever. When new player joins and see a faction that they agree with, they can instantly get a sense of belonging due to the strong themes and ideals present in each one, which is so important for the overall player experience. Using the 3 largest factions as an example, power and progression for the Serpent's Conclave, dwarves for the Dwarven Guild, and the collection of knowledge for the Wanderer's Library, it's easy to see that each faction has clear themes to them, letting players decide what fits them best. Even better when all these communities develop their own jokes and memes, further solidifying a feeling of being a part of something, which makes me so happy to see everyone have. It's also good to have trade be an important thing. Although the economy is a whole nother video, the effects of a functional one can still be discussed. If I make trade easier and more profitable than stealing, my goal has been accomplished. People will talk and interact with others to try and get what they want, instead of raiding random people's bases. Now, if being nice to everyone was the best way to progress, how would wars start? Well, there's a couple of ways. Wars should only begin out of one faction's selfish actions or conflicting interests between 2 factions. Conflicting ideals wars write themselves, so we have to make it so factions acting purely out of self-interest could start some. My heavily teased at mining dimension only has specific entry points around the world, some with more of a specific kind of ore than others, so this could cause friction if a faction seized control, but it's unlikely. We need to make it more explicit. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce ancient artifacts. These artifacts are dangerous, powerful tools that can benefit you and your faction greatly, but alter the world in a negative way. As an example, perhaps you get the artifact of the Cold-Blooded. This one could increase the wielder's damage significantly, but lock the world into perpetual winter. This would encourage factions to stop others from pursuing these powerful artifacts. I would have to make sure these artifacts are very difficult to get your hands on though, and that other factions can actually stop you. To obtain an artifact, you'll have to first follow its trail, discovered in the lore of various dungeons. It could lead you to worship at certain obelisks and shrines in order to give the power back to the artifact. But be wary, for the moment you start on this journey, it will let everyone know exactly what you're doing, with time-sensitive objectives. Perhaps you need to keep an obelisk active for a certain amount of time, or pray at a shrine at a specific time. Not to mention, you'll have to find these things, either by riddles or navigating by the night sky. Whatever it is, other factions will know exactly what you need to do to get the artifact, and can develop a plan to stop you. Of course, none of the artifacts I may mention in this video are final, as they will require fine-tuning and testing. I can't make the server unplayable from one player's actions after all. This way, conflict should develop and play out by means of a story, and not just happen nonsensically. Factions should function in a manner that supports being nice to everyone, without eliminating the possibility of the stories surrounding a war. And you know, if you like these stories, there's a fancy little subscribe button down there if you'd like to see more. Anyway, although these aren't the only mechanics that may contribute to toxicity, factions is only a part of the larger gameplay experience, so there's a couple more things to talk about in the finer details. First is the mining dimension.
Although I'm not going to go into specifics for the sakes of spoilers, each one is an expedition into the darkest depths of the Earth, with various dangers and missions you'll need to accomplish before you can leave. With these mining trips are supposed to be, essentially, Minecraft adaptations of Deep Rock missions. This makes applying the Deep Rock standards to my game a bit easier, but there's a couple of issues that would still arise. For example, I can't make the mining loop global, not in a way that doesn't ruin the immersion or simply break the amount of resources your team is supposed to walk away with. Luckily, there are some very important similarities, that being a shared goal and the ability to revive downed players. Of course, there's not any classes, but I can design the missions and cave generation in a way that greatly rewards having multiple people. One mission type I'll reveal to you right now is the Dragon Egg Hunt. This is largely inspired by stealing eggs in Ark Survival Evolved and the Egg Hunt in Deep Rock Galactic. Who knows though, you might find some mission types that are completely unique. In the Dragon Egg Hunt, you'll be in a bottomless ravine filled with hungry dragons. You and your team will have to sneak around these ravenous beasts and attempt to steal an egg. You found yourself in this hellhole after discovering an ancient dwarven mining facility that led you down there. The only way the elevator will let you back up is if you meet your quota, a dragon egg. The inhabitants are long dead, but the dwarves knew their stuff. These caves are full of minerals, the dragon ravine specifically with an abundance of gold and iron. Everything above your quota, you get to keep. Although there aren't any predefined classes, you get to make your own when trying to survive this deadly mission. Maybe one person is the scout, who runs ahead trying to spot a couple dragon eggs and pick the one most suitable for kidnapping. Another can be a distraction. These dragons are tough, so making sure they don't spot you is very important. And maybe the last player or two are the fighters, helping to slow down and potentially kill if they're strong enough all the dragons that will wake up and attack the second one of their precious eggs are stolen. Making the missions so deadly intense like this won't just be a riveting gameplay experience, but a great way to increase the camaraderie from the teamwork that will almost be required. This isn't even the only mission type. Benefits from being on good terms with other players don't stop here either. Whether it's building, collecting resources, or fending off enemy factions, the good relationships and happy memories you can establish with other players are vital to your success. This is especially going to be imperative when running through any of the dungeons in the game. Each dungeon will contain a milestone for progression, whether it's simply a new word to add to your spellbook or perhaps the entrance to the end. Whatever it may be, you need to best the challenges in each of these dungeons. And as usual, teammates are greatly recommended, but not included. Dungeons will be full of various challenges of brain and brawn. Each technically possible by yourself, but will be made significantly easier to complete with other players. Whether it's information for a puzzle being hidden in another room, or a crazy maze you're trying to chart out, or perhaps a boss that's just a bit too tough to fight alone. All of it will help increase your dependency on other players. To help, I've also included several more social mods like Let's Do Brewery and Vinery, as well as exposure and proximity chat. All of this being said though, I'm well aware toxicity can't be eliminated completely, but with good game design, I can trick players that are closer to the fence into being good people. After all, if you suck, you're just gonna get kicked off a faction, and surviving without other people is gonna be so much harder for you. But if this sounds like the kind of game you want, join the Discord server below and support me on Ko-fi. But don't leave yet! Check out the faction advertisements everyone has made, so you can make a better decision on which one you want to join. Ladies and gentlemen, take a gander at the Serpent's Conclave, the largest and most powerful faction around. We strive to be the best in everything, everywhere. No matter what you like doing, we will accommodate. Are you an expert builder who can build elaborate, impenetrable castles? I'm sure you are. Come join our Callum Constructors. Are you a genius engineer, ripe with new ideas, inventions, and dangerous chemistry? Come join the Spellgear Engineers. Are you a cold-blooded, unstoppable killer, one who laughs in the face of danger and stops at nothing to complete his goal? Ruthless and unwavering in your mission? Then come join the Venom Cerberi. Together and all of our efforts combined, we will spread technology, prosperity, and most importantly, freedom. Do you, dear talented individual, have what it takes to be a serpent? Join us today. Long live the Serpent's Conclave.
The Bastion is dedicated to building infrastructure for anyone and everyone to make use of, as well as to provide a neutral space where players of any kind may prosper. Whether you're a warrior looking to join our sentry unit, a builder wanting to provide handy creative aid, an engineer with a mind full of great ideas to make reality, or anything in between, we, the Bastion, will greet you with open arms. To any would-be faction leaders, we are also assembling a council that will vote on and assist in your building projects, should you wish to join us. Join the Bastion, haven of progress, forge of neutrality, and become a guiding light by which the world thrives.
Oh, you seem to have caught me in the middle of reading. Well, where are my manners? I shouldn't leave guests unattended. Go on, take a seat. While you make yourself at home, perhaps I could interest you in a new book club that I've started. Don't worry, it won't take long, barely a minute. I'm calling it The Wanderer's Library. We collect all the books and information from around the server, and collect all of it for everyone to read whenever they want, free of charge. We also tend to keep track of stuff not written down, though it's a little more difficult to do. So, what do you think? Interested in joining our little club? If you like books, exploring, or gathering information, give us a look.
This is Tol Czechoslovakia. Join us today, or don't. I really don't care. We only need the best of the best. Our great nation will rise above the rest in all aspects. From our military might to our architectural prowess, we will reign supreme. The colors of our flag shall fly for all time. If you wish to join us, learn this flag well. We believe in the democratic process and will hold elections for government officials. This means your vote truly matters. Our main settlement will become the trading capital of the server. It will also be our place of diplomacy. Join today and receive your uniform. With our vast array of expertise, you are sure to find something here. Remember, Tol Czechoslovakia forever!
Hello, I am Ready Set Robot 25, CEO and spokesperson for the Legion of Ignobility. The Legion of Ignobility, or LOI for short, is an organization with absolutely no nefarious or ulterior motives. We do not intend to build a missile silo inside of a hidden volcano lair. We do, however, intend on funding any who wish to build extensive train networks and or small businesses for no reason in particular. And finally, we are definitely not looking to recruit experienced or prospective henchmen, hitmen, bodyguards, masterminds, spies, double agents, scientists and or engineers with knowledge in the fields of chemistry, biology, nuclear power, geothermal power, rocket science, building very large space lasers, and of course, necromancers or any variety of dark wizard. Thank you for taking us into consideration.
Whew, alright. Sure was a lot of ads, huh? Don't worry, this one's not going to be nearly as long. This is the Nocturne Guild. We are simple. Nocturne isn't the guild for those seeking to collaborate on some grand work or follow some larger-than-life leader. We are a business. We do work. Any jobs, from mercenary work to landscaping to package delivery. Anyone from any faction can ask us to do anything. Decide how much you want to pay us, and then any Nocturne Guild members can decide to take the job, assuming the pay is worth it. If one of the other factions from earlier caught your eye, feel free to join them. Nocturne looks forward to your patronage. However, if what you want to do on the server does not align with the goals of any of the other factions, this is the place for you. Members of Nocturne are completely free to do whatever they want. Nocturne territory is unregulated, and you are free to build whatever you like on that territory. So, rather than following orders from some far-off king or emperor, how about you join us, and by your own hands, you will get the tools you need to realize your vision. Nocturne. The work you need, finished before dawn.
And that's all the ads. Make sure you join the Discord if you want to join one. I'll see you there.